Okay, let's take a look at handicapping a race. So earlier we talked about downloading, extracting, looking at raw data. I'm going to look at more details about how to handicap a race. Now, of course, when it says handicap, well, what race are we talking about? We're talking about the race that was last extracted. So in this case, let's extract a Harrington race. It's relatively new, 531. Notice it's the extension R.exe. That's the right racing card, right? That's the past performance ones. Hit yes. File will be extracted. If you're not sure, you can look at the raw data. And here you see Harrington. And the date is about over here, 531. Okay. So let's go back. And now we're going to handicap the race. Before that, let's take a look at set eliminations. So this is quite busy, but it's very powerful. If you want to eliminate races, you know, from your handicapping, especially from when you're printing out the whole card. But notice if today's race exclusions, if it's maidens and you don't want to really handicap it, you can click maidens. You know, there's no wins in the last first, second, third race, less than a mile, a race with shippers in it. If 2 horses have been eliminated, then you don't want to handicap the race, and 3 and so on. Under horse eliminations, a lot of different ways you can eliminate a horse from being a contender. Won't even handicap the horse, so just leave him out. So you can look at the different things here that will eliminate him. Also, if the last race eliminations, go back 1 race. So if the last race was, let's say, a qualifying race, and you don't want to use it, or go back to the horse's previous race. So there's a number of eliminations for the last race to go back 1. What's also interesting here, modify eliminations. So for notice here, unraced for over 21 days. Let's go back here to modify eliminations. Notice, unraced for over 21 days. Well, that's a default. You can change it to, let's say you prefer 30 days. You hit 30, hit the update, go to return, and notice now your eliminations is going to be unraced for over 30 days. So you can change some of these values. Notice morning line odds 30 or higher, but now I want it where it's 10. You can change it. You go back, and now it says 10. Okay, so that's how you modify eliminations. If you don't check anything, let's go back, then no horse and no race will be eliminated. Come over here. If you don't want to display it, you can unclick that. Now let's look at, before we handicap the race, let's set the weighting factors. Now there are like 10 ratings that are going to be analyzed, and they will have a multiplier or a weighted multiplier, like in this case the win, play, show ratings times 10, class 10, speed 10, and so on. You can look at the numbers. Where do they come from? Well, what will always be stored in memory is the last set of weights that are brought in. How do you bring them in? Load the file. Notice under the subdirectory, these are previous CRI files. These are weighting files. And let's say if I brought in Dover, hit yes, go return, and notice the numbers have changed. Notice down here it's telling you what the weighting file was and the description. If you want to go back, go into test, return, and those are the ones that were previously in. Okay, so that's how you're going to bring in the weights. So in other words, what this really then means is this particular rating, win, play, show rating times 10 is going to be twice as weighted as the final quarter effort, right? Because that's times 5. Trainer rating is 30. That's going to be 3 times more weighted value than the WPS. So that's how these weighting factors are going to work. Okay, so set eliminations, set the weights, and now we'll hit handicap. Now this screen will come up. Those 10 ratings will be analyzed, and out of the 10, they will be pulled together to give you a final list of contenders, which is way up here on top. Over here is the scroll bar. You can scroll all the way down, look at all 10. It's a little busy, right? Because I'm trying to show all the values for 10 ratings all on one page. So it's somewhat unique, but that's how you can get to look at them all. But what's important is the best contenders, right? That's where you're going to make determinations. Now, a couple of things that you don't see readily available. Let's say this number 6 horse. This delightful chick, double click, and it's going to give you, remember this is 531, so this is a previous race. If you double click, you're going to see the results. So in this particular case, he finished 4th, 7 lengths behind, and that was his odds, 46, essentially 46 to 1. So that was his odds. Notice our contender, post position 7, how well did he do? He went off at, well, that's the morning line was 9 to 1. Let's see what he went off at. Turns out he finished first, so that was a good pick. And he was ahead by a half a length, and his odds is 8.6. So that would have been a good payout. So if you double click, if there's results in the system, which we'll talk about more later, it'll be shown. One other thing is, let's say this is a race coming up. If you hit your right mouse, the line will go red. You come up here under administration and it says scratch horses in red. You hit that, it'll scratch that horse, this number 6 horse, and do all the calcs over for all these ratings and give you a new set of contenders. Okay? If you want to unscratch all the previous scratches, you just hit unscratch, and that number 6 horse will come back in for the best contenders. Okay, so a couple of things that's not readily available. If you go under helps, and you can come under here under handicap or race and notice display eliminations. Right, we talked about that. We're going to handicap a single race. You can get the results as I mentioned. You can click. You can scratch horses in red. You unscratch, and you could also change the post position from whatever was listed as the morning line. You can change that post position. Okay, so let's go back here to handicap. Notice you can hit calc again if you, for some reason, you wanted a recalculator. So you'll do the recalc, and there's your best contenders. Didn't change. You can scroll to your next race or your previous. This is race 1, so there's obviously is no previous. You can select a race like, number 10. Hit 10, hit the enter key, and she'll go off and now handicap the 10th race. And you can see up here the 10th race. Up here you got a whole bunch of status, right? The track name, date, race number, class rating, and the descriptions of the race. You can come over here and hit report. Notice it's going to go to the screen. Hit print report. And a report will be generated. And you can see all of the ratings, what the weighted factors are, and what the individual values for those ratings are for each horse, and of course the best contenders. So pretty powerful little tool. And of course you can send it to the printer, or you can export the report in various formats, PDF. You can save it to a file and so on. Okay, you can again, as I mentioned, go to hit previous race, and she'll handicap the previous race. Under admin, we mentioned set eliminations, set weighting factors, so you can do this right here from the handicapping screen. You can again display the handicapping, let's see, We'll have to go look and see why that's not being displayed. We mentioned scratches in red and so on, help and return. So that's how you're going to handicap a single race. Okay?